to order. I declare we have a quorum present. And public comment, seeing none.
Let me just double check that there are no YouTube participants. Come on, cursor.
They won't be participating right now. If they were going to be participating, they needed this link and the ID number. So they won't be joining in now, though they'll be able to view the meeting on YouTube once it's been recorded and sent to Florencia at Town Administration.
Okay, so we will have no public comment, is Anna's telling us.
Yeah, good. All right, well, the second item on our agenda is the annual reorganization of the commission, the officers for fiscal year 21. This is, of course, a process that the first meeting in July where we get to reorganize. And the way we'll do it is, do we have any volunteers who want to seek out a position?
Alan, I'm gonna foreclose everything by saying I'm your secretary, and you guys are gonna have to figure out chair or vice chair.
Right, right. Okay, so I would.
We have an arrangement. It seems to me the current arrangement is optimal.
Right. So will you make that as a motion to retain the current current officers of the Cemetery Commission?
Sure, I so move to
Okay.
retain current officers.
Okay.
Right.
Fran is moving. Who's second?
I'm seconding it.
Yeah.
Barbara second.
Okay.
Wait a
Any
minute, Alan.
discussion?
Yeah, discussion's important.
Oh, hi, Scotty. Welcome. There we go. Hi, Scotty.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, that's all right. We're just getting underway. We're doing the reorganization, and we just made you chairman. So.
Okay, good. Congratulations.
No, actually, Fred just made a motion to retain the current officers for the coming fiscal year, and Barbara seconded. And there was any question or any discussion on the motion?
Hey, Scott. Alan, let's be
Yes.
explicit because we are sort of working remotely. That would be you as chair, Barbara White as vice chair, and me as secretary.
Right. Thank you.
Barbara, is that correct?
I don't remember ever being vice chair. Was I vice chair?
Well, let's see.
Alan,
Really?
I'm not sure. I don't, unfortunately, I don't have my list of officers.
I thought last time we talked about it, Lee was vice chair.
I thought so too.
No, I'm your permanent secretary.
Yeah.
I remember I was vice chair once, so maybe I'm vice chair.
Oh, maybe. Okay, there we go. Scotty.
Okay, so
I would like to amend the motion to have Scott be vice chair.
I second that motion.
I'll do it.
No, there's no amendments needed. No amendments needed. We're clarifying.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the officers then for fiscal year 21, I will be chairman, Alan Reinhardt. Lee will be the secretary, and Scotty will be the vice chair to stand in for. Excellent. Okay, that's the motion. Any further discussion on the motion?
I'm going to interject really quickly. Erica Mooney sent over to Lee and you as well, Alan, the Cemetery Commission appointments. As Alan chairman, Lee as vice chairman, and then actually there's no secretary listed.
And
Right.
I have to Erica saying, in the words of the immortal William Tecumseh Sherman, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Right.
I checked with Erica. I'm pretty sure I was not vice chair because I've been taking minutes for this last year.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm
No,
pretty sure I was vice chair.
right. Yeah. I'm sure that Lee was the secretary and doing a fabulous job, by the way.
I will send her an updated list at the end of this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you,
Great.
Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
So let's have a vote on the motion and we'll make it official. All in favor of the slate as stated? Aye.
Aye.
Well, I think I need to do this by roll call. Chairman votes aye. Lee,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
Scotty,
Aye.
all in, oh, okay, so it's unanimous.
Okay, I've got
Great.
that.
So we have the slate of officers and it'll be in our minutes, so we'll know for sure next time, and I'll write it down. All right, next item is the approval of minutes from June 10th, which was our last Zoom meeting. And those were circulated,
Earlier today, Alan, I'll explain in a minute.
oh, I thought they were circulated, the minutes were circulated, I thought right after.
You got a copy, and then I kind of got preoccupied.
But I got them and I have read them.
I got them too.
Me too.
Yeah, I had them too.
I was sure about them.
Right. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from June 10th. Thank you, Barbara. Second,
I second it.
and Fran, second, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
So there's no big secrecy about all this, but on Sunday, June 14th, I was heli lifted to Mass General
ah,
to deal with a small little, not so small, tumor at the top of my pancreas.
oh
Quote
my.
the doctor, "Oh, after all sorts of treatment, this is curable." So we're going to live life as normally as we possibly can. On those days when we feel uncomfortable, we'll simply defer till a day later. Right now, I am extremely comfortable and happy to be with you.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not anything I would have chosen for myself. The good news is the standard of care, by the way, folks, if you're appropriately insured.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, we certainly hope that everything works out okay and well.
Me too.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, the next item is the memorial stone at Quays. And I don't have an update on the funding. Unfortunately, Rob was away for this past week. So I don't have anything. Scotty, do you have anything new on as far as the memorial stone for the funding or the process?
I read in the minutes that Lee had said that I would be putting in the order for the stone.
Yeah.
I have not put in an order for a stone. Usually we would wait for a deposit.
Wait for the deposit, exactly.
And that's attached to funding. However, I can put an order in stone because I don't need a deposit.
Well, I think it's important that we do make sure we have the money lined up.
Okay.
So that's, okay, so the question was which of the funds are we going to take it out of? And that was a question for Rob. And I haven't been able to talk with Rob about that. So I'll make a point. So let's do it this way. I'll make a point to contact Rob in the near future. We'll determine where the money is going to come from, which one of those funds we're going to take it out of. And at that point, we'll get the wheels rolling to get that done so that there's no question about, payment and so on. So, all right. So we'll.
Alan, everything you said is in good order. But I could add to that, Hannah, if when I ship the minutes around, you highlight this little section and lay it on Rob's desk.
Yes, I can do that. He is actually here right now. He's on the phone at the moment, but I can see if he has a moment to step in just a second.
Oh, that would be nice. Thank you very much.
That would be terrific.
Okay. By the way, I've been again to the cemeteries and including the Quays burial ground, and they're all nicely mowed. The cemeteries have been very well maintained so far this summer. So just want to mention that.
I noticed in the Pulpus Cemetery, there is a dead pine tree up at the top of the hill.
Oh, yes, at Pulpus. Yes, that's the one where I spoke with Steve and Sarah, who is Rob's deputy. And I asked about Mo had, Richard Morris had been up to Pulpus Cemetery. We've marked the trees. I think Barbara and Scott, now Barbara and Lee were up there when we marked the trees and so on. And so I asked Steve to follow up with Mo to see where it was on their list. They do have a priority list. So again, I'll follow up on that to see where that is, but they do know, and I'm aware of that dead pine tree at the top of the hill.
I can also get in touch with tomorrow Dale Gary, who is the tree arborist we have on staff. And he does the tree removal process. So, so I can give him a call tomorrow too.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, it's a dead pine at Pulpus Cemetery, right at the top of the hill. You can't miss it.
And you said you did mark it?
Yes, I think it has a red X on it, but it's very noticeable. It's the only, right at the top of the hill there.
Does that mean that he'll only take that tree, not the other ones we crossed?
Right. Oh, good.
Oh, go ahead.
Good question. We did mark several trees in the back part of the cemetery that needed to be removed. Again, they were all marked with a red X. Mo did that. He was in the property with us, and he marked the trees. So the key one is the dead pine at the top of the hill. But as long as Dale is in there, let him take a look and see which ones he wants to deal with. And I guess Mo will deal with the rest of the brush and the lower stuff. Okay, great. All right, so.
Alan, I've got a separate point, not Pulpus.
Mhm.
Friend's favorite topic, our favorite topic. Sitting in the treatment rooms, I can look out the window at historic colored. And I'm pleased to report that the landscapers have cleaned up along the fence. They've planted. The one thing they have not done is given a slight ramp from the parking area up onto that concrete pad.
I know. I spoke with the guy who runs the operation out there for as far as the field work. This was last week, and I reminded him of that the ramp that was necessary, and he said, "Oh." He would go take a look again. Again, this is the property supervisor, whatever his title is, who's overseeing all the planting and all the work and so on that they're doing. So as I said, I did see him a week ago and reminded him. So again, and I've been following up.
It's an issue of handicapped accessibility.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I explained to him why we needed, the ramp again. And I told him that it was for wheelchair accessibility. So people, the whole idea of having that separate entrance was for handicap. So people could drive in get out of the car in that nice, paved area. And then they would be able to wheel up on that platform and then into the cemetery.
Yeah, so we do know that the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, specifies the grade of some of these ramps. Packing a little bit of material in there in a triangle isn't quite the same as an ADA ramp. Better than zero, but not actually compliant.
Well, as long as the angle is correct, right? That's the main thing for the ramp. The angle has to be whatever the degrees are spelled out.
I thought it was around 11%, but that'll be up to them to accommodate.
I'm sorry, say that again?
11%, 11 rise over 100 forward.
Okay, I'll mention those numbers, although I just
No,
sort of
just ask them to make sure that it's ADA compliant.
ADA, okay.
And let them figure it out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that was my plan. All right. And I'll also follow up with Jason again. I've called Jason a couple of times, but the plant supervisor or manager is really the one who oversees the work. So, great. So yeah, it'd be great to see that so we can check that off the list and move on to some of the other things that we want to get done over there. Okay, where are we here? On number 5, the work priorities. I think we've been over these. We have work orders that we've completed for Newtown, Historic Colored Cemetery, Old North, and New North. And I believe we did one for, what was the other one? Anyway, those are the key ones. Probably, well, the other one was Quaker Cemetery. And I think that was mainly the monuments. So we have work orders that we compiled and submitted for those 4 cemeteries. In most cases, it was brush removal and fencing. Those were the 2 key things in the cemeteries, in all 4 of those that I just mentioned. And in addition, then of course the monument restoration, which is a whole other priority. So
I have a question about the Quaker Cemetery.
Yes.
Did the letter ever go out to the abutters?
Oh, I mentioned that to Ken Bogran. This was about it must have been after our last meeting.
Alan,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Fran to rephrase the question. She's not coming through as clearly as you are.
Okay.
Okay. I wrote a letter for the abutters a long time ago, and I want to know, did it ever go out?
The letter was given to Ken Bogrand, who deals with those things for the town, and Ken. When I spoke to him last, he had revised. There were a couple of things that he revised. He said that the letter should come from the town and not from the cemetery commission. That was one of the items. And so in terms of whether that's been sent, my assumption is no, that it hasn't been.
The point was that we were going to send it in the winter to the addresses off island of the abutters. Now it's the middle of the summer and one has to assume that they're here. And it just strikes me as unconscionable that this has not been done. I mean, I did my part right away.
Right.
And it's really annoying to just do it, hand it over, and have nothing done. It's the same thing as with the people in Pulpus. We talk ourselves blue in the face and nothing gets accomplished.
Correct. Yeah, well, I'm not sure that I would say nothing gets accomplished because supposedly the town is working on that. But by the way, I was back there to check to see if there was any new rubbish or trash put in there, and there was nothing, you know.
Yeah.
All right, I'll follow up with Ken, see what the status of the letter is. As I said, when I spoke with him last, he was, there were certain changes that he wanted to make. And also, as I say, his main concern was that it should come from the town, that it would carry more weight or something. And I understand the point. We're going to send it out in the winter. I suspect that it's probably not high on his priority list, which is why it hasn't, nothing has gone forward with that. But
Alan,
I'll put it on.
you know,
Yeah, Barbara.
I know we did this a long time ago because I know Fran wrote the letter. I looked up the addresses and there was nothing to do. I mean, if they made a few changes, we're
Right.
talking, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then to put them in envelopes. It was a very small list. I
Right.
don't think the whole task could have been more than 15 minutes long.
Right.
You know, I mean, one of us would have gone and done it. I would have stuffed the envelopes. I'm
Maybe
serious.
that's how we.
I
Yeah.
mean, it loses its effect. I mean, I think we should still send it.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the addresses don't really matter because people probably have their mail forwarded.
Right. Right.
But
Well,
I do
maybe
think-
that would be a better way to approach this, that for us to just take that over. I mean, if we have all the information, we have the letter and we have the addresses.
But if they want it to come from the town, you know, that means it has to be on town letterhead or whatever. I just feel like, you know, I don't know. It is frustrating that because I mean, clearly it was done before the pandemic. I feel like I might have done those addresses in December, but I would hate to swear by it. But I know it was a while ago.
No, it was. I remember when we were out there to look at to scout the situation and climbing through all the vines and everything back there. So, all right. Well, I'll put that on my list to.
And if you want to send it over to me as well, I can always have Rob look it over, and it could potentially come from the DPW's office.
Oh, okay. All right. Great.
And Hannah would get it done.
We get it done if given permission to do so.
Of course.
Exactly. Excellent. Okay. Well, good. So I believe Ken has a copy of the letter. I don't have a copy of it that I'm aware of. Fran, can you send a copy of the original letter? And
Okay, and what's Hannah's email address?
whose?
If I'm going to send it over to Hannah, what's her email? She said send it to her, but I need an email address.
I'm sorry, Fran. You can go ahead and send it to the DPW box, which is dpw@nantucket-ma.gov.
Okay.
However, that's not going to have the changes that the town wanted in it. So,
Well, yeah.
No, but
Let
if
me.
the town hasn't done anything about it, we might as well just send our own letter.
Right.
especially if Rob's comfortable with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Hannah's suggestion to have it come from the DPW is, that's the town that would do it. And so, Hannah, maybe when you get the letter, you can run it by Rob, make sure he's comfortable with it.
Right.
And-
I'll probably also reach out to Ken Bogren beforehand and just get everyone on board.
I don't know if I have the addresses.
Oof.
If I don't, I'll get in touch with Barbara.
Yeah, let's hope I didn't erase them. But okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take care of that. So, again, So work plan priorities. I'm just trying to think. There's really nothing more we can do because we do have the work orders in for those 4 cemeteries, and those are the key ones that we want to get done, particularly the fencing and the brush. I was up at Old North, and there are some graves along Wires Way, which is not a way at all; it's a driveway, and it's on land bank property, by the way. And there's a legal dispute with the property owner who wants to subdivide and build 2 giant houses with pools and all that sort of stuff, and use the way as a way. And we said, no, it's not a way; it's a driveway. So anyway, there were some graves I noticed that were still in the brush along that side of the cemetery. So, okay, is there anything else as far as work priorities that we want to deal with?
Well, I'd like to bring up, I had suggested one more marked entrance to the colored cemetery, and
Yes.
I suggested putting in an arbor gate. And there's no fence actually on that side of the cemetery.
Correct.
It's simply open to the left. So I've looked at where the path is mowed, and
Right.
even though it wouldn't be a gate in a fence unless they decide to add more fencing, I still feel very strongly that we need to have one more marked, clearly visible entrance to the cemetery. And so I continue to put forward this suggestion.
Can I ask a
Right.
question? I was up there the other day. I gave a tour to a fellow. We did not go that way, but I went over there and looked. I just wonder, how is the parking along Vesper Lane legal? Like, so can people park there and walk from that side?
I'm not sure what the parking situation is. I know you used to be able to park across from the laundromat. Um,
But
hmm.
my feeling about it is that it's more symbolic than anything. Right now we have a cemetery with compromised entrances, all because of the hospital. And one way to mediate that, at least for the time being, is to add one more visible entrance to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Whether people will have to walk some distance to get to it. I mean, after all, if they want to visit the land bank property there, they have to get to it from putting their car somewhere else or just arrive on foot anyway.
Right.
I'm just very, very uncomfortable about the fact that the hospital has compromised the existing entrances to the cemetery. And you know, it's been nearly a year since the Carter funeral, when we had to go in at the last minute and sort of make do. And almost a year has gone by and it's not actually any better. So
They put in the pathway and they got that stuff cleared up in the opening. So it, as a result of our actions, we've made it a little bit better.
Yeah.
but still, it's not handicapped accessible.
The area where I walked with Isabel was where you're talking, in through the path there, right? Coming down from the street.
What I'm talking about is you can see the cemetery clearly from Vesper Lane across land bank property.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to put a vertical, to my mind, preferably an arbor gate, there at the end of the path that Alan keeps mowed across that land bank property, so that there's one more visible entrance to the cemetery, whether it gets a lot of traffic or not.
Would the arbor be up on the entrance to the cemetery, though, not to the land bank land?
No, it would be at the edge of the cemetery, on the cemetery land. Doesn't have to be on the land bank land.
Yeah.
After all, the footprint of an arbor is not very big at all.
No.
The Jewish cemetery used to have one until they doubled the size, and I sent around a couple of photos to show it. But you know, from Vesper Lane, you can see the cemetery. But if there were a vertical marker of an entrance there, I just feel that it would mitigate things, because right now, no matter where you go, you see that little cemetery and you really do not know how to get to it. But there is the path that's kept mowed across that land bank property. And I think at the end of that mowed path at the cemetery, there should be some formal entry into the cemetery. I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, I wasn't understanding exactly where you were meaning. I thought you were on like the more northern side of the cemetery.
No, no, no.
But I understand that one.
Hey, Alan and Fran, this is Lee.
Yeah.
I understand what Fran wants, and I'm all in favor of something truly permanent. I'm looking at Scott, who's on my screen. I'd rather see 2 5-foot stone pillars than one of those everywhere on the island arbors available from Marine, because ultimately that's a maintenance problem.
Well, I sent to Lee not only a photo of the Jewish cemetery, but a photo of my own arbor, which is a historic arbor here on my property. And they're graceful, they're vertical. I just put this out for you. Anything that from Vesper Lane, as you look across to the cemetery, you see that there is an entrance to the cemetery.
Right. Yeah.
Because just a mowed path to it doesn't tell you from Vesper Lane that that path is going to take you to the cemetery.
Right.
You don't know where it's going to take you, and you don't know how to get to the cemetery. And if there were a vertical, graceful entrance, I think it would be a great help.
Right.
How would you feel about stone pillars, like 5 feet tall or something, 6 feet tall?
I can see that there would be less maintenance involved. It would need to look nice. I wouldn't want something that looks sort of, I don't know, fascist or Soviet. I'd like something graceful looking.
Yeah.
When I think about 2 granite pillars, tall as I am or a little taller, it doesn't strike me as pretty.
Seems like a driveway.
Huh. Yeah.
I mean,
All right,
I can see what I can think of with stone and send you some looks that might work, given what
If
you
you
were
like,
looking
I can
for.
send around a picture of the old entrance to Prospect Hill, which was ornate and frankly pretty ugly.
Yeah. All right. Well, Fran, in fact, I have detailed notes from our June meeting as far as the arbor and so on. And I've been looking at different arbors around and so on. I think Lee raises a good concern as far as the maintenance. Who's going to maintain, when it starts to fall apart, or if it needs to be varnished or whatever. But I fully agree with you that a third visible entrance from Vesper Lane saying this is, an invitation to come into the cemetery, particularly where the other 2 entrances, remember the one that the hospital put in was in exchange for the parking area that the land bank had cut on their property. And, that's why they put the path up there, because, that's where it used to go. People would drive in there, walk into the cemetery through that space that we're talking about, an arbor. So I agree. I think it would be a nice touch. It would make the cemetery more visible. And I think that's a good thing to announce the cemetery there. So again, we'll follow up on that. We'll see what Scotty comes up with as far as doing it in stone. the wooden ones are, if you're doing them in cedar, are fairly expensive anyway. So yeah, let's see what Scotty comes up with in stone, and we will pursue this because I agree with you. I think that having a visible third entrance there, it's funny, of all the cemeteries, the historic colored has the most. You come in New Mill Street, you can come in by the hospital, you can come in that path, both the one that we're talking about, the land bank path, or you can come in the other path, which is off of Vesper.
Excuse me.
Goes down to the old entrance. And of course, we have that wonderful boulder, and we have. So anyway, we've got all sorts of markings there, but it is still hidden there behind the hospital. So, all right. So we'll definitely follow up on that. Bless you.
Sorry.
So we'll definitely follow up on that, Fran, and I'll keep it on the agenda, and we'll keep it there until we either until we make a decision as to what's going to go there, or how we're going to do that. So, okay, is there anything else as far as the work priorities? Anything you notice on any of the cemeteries? Barbara, when you were up in historic colored, did you see anything in particular?
No, I thought it looked great.
It looked great. I thought so too.
Yeah.
And the stones, because the stones have been treated, they're legible.
Looks really nice.
Yeah, it does. It's very nice. So good. Well, we just want to invite more people to go up and take a look. And yeah. So, all right. So next item, Pulpus and Newtown.
Alan, we have Rob with us. We probably
Rob
should.
joined in, so I don't know if you want to backtrack to the.
Let's start over.
Oh, hey, Rob. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to see you, everyone. Miss everyone.
Yeah.
I miss you, Rob.
Yeah. So there were a couple of items. First of all, the
Quays.
Oh, Quays. Yes, the Quays. We have voted to put a memorial stone at Quays listing the names of the people that, or at least that we know are interred there. And the question is, which of the 4 or 5 accounts can we tap for that stone? We're talking about an expense of, what was it, Scotty? Around 7,000? Scotty?
7,000, yeah.
Yeah, 7,000. So, Rob, what we need to know is which one of those funds. I was thinking originally one of the CPA grants for for cemetery improvements. And there are two CPA grants that we have. One is for the monument restoration, and we had another one that was originally either $25,000 or $30,000 for cemetery improvements. So my thought was that would be the one, but you would know better than as to which account that should come out of.
I will confirm it with the finance director,
Okay.
but generally the account would be out of it's ongoing repairs of cemetery.
Yeah, I forget what it's been so long since we did that first CPA grant that, but as I recall, we made it pretty general so we could use those funds for improvements. We were thinking initially at Newtown, but for the other cemeteries as well. So my recollection is that was for improvements for the town cemeteries. So
Yeah, I'll definitely get an account. I think the biggest point would be just that the commission has voted to expend the money.
right.
And then I can find out exactly what the account number is. And then we would initiate a PO.
Rob, this is Lee. from one account manager to the other. Any account that is unspent for an extended period of time gets swooped up. So let's use one.
Yeah, so we don't have a account for the cemetery specifically that is fiscally tied, Lee. Everything that is specific to the cemetery is trust accounts. So you have one that is basically an interest bearing only that feeds the other account.
I think, Rob, we're trying to tap one of the CPC grants that we had.
Right.
Yeah, we can look at that too. The CPC grant I thought was specifically for restoration, but I will check into that.
We had argued that we are kind of restoring the stone at Quays. I think Fran might have said that at one of our meetings that was already existing there. That's my recollection. But.
Well, you know, Quays was almost a lost cemetery. It was totally overgrown. You know, the Conservation Foundation, which owns the property around it, wasn't aware that there was a cemetery there. And so anyway, we've cleared out the cemetery. We've replaced fencing in the corners. The cemetery is now mowed on a regular basis by the Conservation Foundation. And so.
And according to people with long memories, there used to be a large flat-faced boulder in the cemetery that is not there anymore. So you could make the argument that a cemetery marker was there and is there no longer, and what we're doing is replacing it.
Right.
If we had to make that argument.
Okay, well, we'll let Brian.
Alan, once again, this is Lee. Do you think it's appropriate, and I'm asking you, Scott and Rob, for Scott to put in a request, a formal request, that then enables Rob and Brian Turbot to assign an account to it?
Well, I was just going to ask, do we have a formal proposal with details of, you know, what the specifications are for the stone?
I think that would be a good move.
Yeah.
We do. Scotty has a drawing of the stone and with the names and all that sort of thing.
I think you had it attached to the minutes, Lee.
Yeah,
I know
that's
I
right.
did.
There was.
Okay. I will dig through the emails here, and between Hannah and myself, we'll pull it together, and I'll get in touch with Brian and get, you know what, for the next meeting, not just what account this ought, I would recommend pulling it from, but maybe just a update on the summaries from those accounts.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful. Okay, and
But Alan, Quaker burial ground, Quaker Cemetery, clean up against the Wind Street properties.
oh yes, Rob, we drafted a letter, or Fran drafted a letter, and Barbara looked up the home addresses of the abutters to cemetery on Wind Street. And the issue was there was trash that was coming over into the cemetery from those properties there. Yeah. And so Fran drafted a letter. Barbara got the addresses, the home addresses from the tax records for those property owners. Okay. And we gave it to Ken Bogran. Ken was going to handle how to send the letter. And the last I spoke with him, he felt the letter should come from the town, not from the cemetery commission. And I think there was some minor change or something that he wanted to add to it. But so
yeah, we have a standard letter that is sent out for encroachment type violations.
You're right. Now this is more trash. I'm sorry, Fran.
I said that this isn't about an encroachment of a building. It's about trash. And so we decided we should write a letter about the cemetery to encourage people not to do that anymore. And the problem is that it was done in December or no later than the first meeting in January, and it has gone nowhere. And it's 6 months. It just doesn't make sense. Either it goes out or it doesn't.
So again, this is Lee. Rob, I hear you, and I think we just ought to send them a standard letter. If it's their material, whether it's trash or brush, and it's coming from their land onto the cemetery, it's an encroachment. It's not the same as steps, a corner of a building, a driveway, but it's still an encroachment. And let's just stay with protocol and procedure, because I think it's easier and it falls more easily upon you in terms of enforcement.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to send over the letter and the addresses if I have them to the DPW, and hope we can finally get some movement on this.
Yeah, well, I would say if you've already, that's fine. If Ken already has it, then it's simply raising it at our weekly encroachment meeting. And we're happy to get back on that. So I don't know if they've already been sent. Ken is usually pretty studious about that, and I will check in on that.
Okay, great. That's, I believe when Fran and I think Barbara, were you there too? Did you walk that with us? Anyway, when we were in there, it was.
You and me and Andy Lowell were who walked it.
Oh, that's right. And yeah, Andy Lowell was there. In fact, he's the one who pointed out. It seemed as though what trash was there was mostly construction stuff from the building and so on. So it's probably, the owners aren't even aware of it, but.
But there was also water
I know.
bottles and.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. All right, so we'll be on that. Okay, was there, I think that was it for Rob. Nicole is going to talk with the tree guy.
You mean Hannah?
Yeah. Hannah's going to talk with Dale.
Oh, right, yeah. We have a dead tree at Pulpus. It's a pine tree right on top of the hill. And when Mo was in there, he went through, he put red X's on the trees, the dead stuff that needed to come out. So Hannah said that she would make a note to send Dale in there to take a look because he does the trees. And I guess Mo and his group do the brush clearing in the back there.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that brings us back to Pulpus and Newtown. There's nothing new at Newtown Cemetery as far as I'm aware. I do notice the flagpole that's in Newtown. It leans. I'm thinking we should probably remove the flagpole because there's nobody who, we don't put the flag up. The DPW doesn't put a flag up. Nobody puts a flag up in that cemetery. So I would think that the flagpole should come down. Lee?
Alan, this is Nantucket. In our innocence, we can really, really make a big mistake. Please check with Callie Pierce at the American Legion.
Yeah,
They're the guys that decorate on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever seeing a flag on that pole, I say the pole is leaning about 80 degrees or so from there. So either it should be at least stood up, or all right. So Kelly Pierce.
By the way, I'm with you for removal because there's probably one more item that's sitting right on top of a grave.
Well, it could very well be. Who knows? who knows? But
Rob will be the first guy to tell you about removing things from cemeteries.
oh, really?
Yeah, from his experience.
I mean, I think it's wise to check in with the Legion and definitely, just to inquire about that.
Right.
And in the meantime, I'll check it out myself. Might be something that could be a fairly easy repair.
Could be. All right. Well, I'll make a note to call. Let's see. Kelly Pierce is he's the Legion, and then I'm just trying to think of.
VFW is involved, but they're not great on it. Rob, your contact would be Nick Duarte, who does a lot of work with the veterans.
Yeah, I know Nick. He's working for us. So I could check with Nick, and I also have a contact at the Legion I can give a call to.
Oh, all right.
Great.
Good. All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, if in fact maybe the Legion or the VFW isn't aware that there's a pole there, and maybe they have a flag, or So, anyway, all right. We'll follow up.
Contact at the VFW I can share as well.
Okay. Great.
All right. Oh, good. Okay. Anything else on Pulpus and Newtown?
Well, Pulpus, the big question is whether or not Ken is ready to move on the encroachment, and Newtown on whether he's ready to take something to the select board.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
Let's ask for a status report at our next meeting.
All right. So yeah, the next step is for the Hicks to remove the grasses and the Andromeda that they planted on the property.
Alan, plantings are a little issue. A 1 foot intrusion by a building, that's a power saw.
No, I know. Well, as their lawyer pointed out, the house was built before there was any zoning or anything like that. Even though you can't encroach on town property, I mean it's definitely an encroachment. And as Rob said, I think a couple of months ago, we have the power to make a move that garage off our, even though it's only a foot or so.
Okay.
But I think
Alan, I'm no attorney, but I have been studying an awful lot of property law because it impacts environmental quality and permitting and the social license to operate, all those good things. I agree with their attorney. The property was built before the land was zoned. I think it was 1972.
Mm-hmm.
An intrusion on a neighbor goes back into the antiquity of property law. It has nothing to do with zoning and everything to do with usurping the right of the owner, in this case the town, by moving their property onto ours. That's a court of equity. That's a common law. Sorry, as I said, I'm not an attorney, and Ken will get town council to tell us what the appropriate steps are, but we need to do that.
Right. Now, as I say, Ken has been in discussions with the Hicks attorney on this, and the Hicks have made it very clear that they just don't want to deal, they're not interested in the land swap, in spite of their initial report. So,
Okay. I also know that when it comes to remedies, the town may not just step in there with a backhoe and tear down their building. That's a no-no.
Yeah.
But the town can get a court order for that to happen.
Right. I'm not sure we want to go to that extent.
I do.
I think, I'd be happy as long as they get their firewood and that ladder and any
No,
other.
sir. We cannot abide an intrusion onto town land that we ignore. Otherwise, by accepting it, we say it's okay.
Well, we're not accepting it. We're not.
You are if you do nothing.
I want to,
So-
I want to, can I jump in here?
Sure, Barbara.
What has changed since our last meeting?
Virtually nothing.
Okay, because I believe we voted at the last meeting about this.
We did.
Right, we voted, I forget what the vote was, but we
Unanimous.
essentially abandoned the idea of the land swap,
Right.
and the focus was to get the Hicks to remove their,
All encroachments. I'm sorry, Alan, not just the vegetation.
well, in other words, you're talking about the garage, making
Yes.
them move the garage?
Yes.
I think
Alan, I'm gonna say this is beyond my credentialing, and we really need to meet with Ken and a representative town council. This is a biggie.
I don't think I see it the same way. Obviously that garage was built who knows when, but
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It intrudes over a property boundary. Okay, I'll be quiet.
But I think
Okay.
Barbara and I are of the same opinion.
I think we voted on this, and I think it was made clear, and I can't look at my minutes while I'm on Zoom. It just messes it up. But, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we were going to send a very legal letter. I mean, there's no harm in making the initial foray. There's always negotiation later. I feel like this is a family that, and I thought Rob said at a meeting or two ago, something about the encroachment issue. I don't know. The way you were talking a minute ago, I thought maybe something had happened in the last month that changed us, and I don't. It doesn't appear that we have. So I'm going to have to defer to the minutes.
yeah. Well, Ken Bogran has been dealing with the Hicks, or actually with the Hicks attorney. And so
Recently?
I think anything's happened recently.
Someone came.
Frankly, we're still coming out of, I said we're still dealing with COVID.
Right.
This is only the second meeting we've had really
Yeah.
since February.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
That's why we can't remember anything.
I could certainly check in with Ken on this matter as well and
Yeah.
provide an update to the commission at the next meeting.
okay, great. Yeah, well, as I say, Ken Bogran is the representative for the town who has been dealing with the attorneys after his initial contact with the Hicks. And then the Hicks said, don't deal with us, deal with our attorney. So I think we'll leave it in Ken's hands for now as to how to go forward. And we'll let Rob speak with Ken and see where that is right now. So, okay, anything else on either Pulpus or Newtown? Good. Digitizing the NHA and town burial records. Rob, you recommended a firm that would do this, would help us with the digitizing the records. We want to, of course, start with our current records, the ones for Pulpus, that we've sold, the 70 some lots or whatever there. But the idea is that we would like to incorporate the other town cemeteries, the records, which are in the NHA currently, and to get those into the database. So we have a database, a town-wide database of who's buried in what cemeteries and what lots. And
Sure. So just to be clear, I can't make recommendations for specific firms, but I think what I did say is I have experience with firms that do this from previous experience with other towns.
right.
And I'd be happy to reach out to them to try to get some understanding of, what their services would cost to try to do this here.
Okay.
Alan, I think that's an excellent suggestion. If the town of Nantucket is looking for assistance and advice, we can certainly ask them to tell us about things. And I'm going to add, and I know many of you know this, that the status of the spreadsheets from the Lewis records is more advanced than we're allowing. It's already in typed form, it's in printed form, and it wouldn't be difficult to convert what we have from the Lewis records into the background. Then we have, of course, our new records, the ones that we've established. The gap is prior to Lewis, and something that we want to do way in the future, and that's people from Nantucket who died elsewhere, primarily at sea. But that I think, if we can get a start with the Lewis records and our current records, we would then have something in place.
Sure.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think that the important thing is to get to have a basic inventory, I guess, of who's where and so on. And that information, most of that is available through the NHA archive.
Just a minute, Alan. Just a minute. Hannah and Rob, the original microfilms are in Nancy Holmes's vault.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we have the data. It's just that it's in different places. And I guess what this company would do would bring it all together, so we have a common database of all the 9 cemeteries and who's in them and that sort of thing. So that's the ultimate objective. And yeah, right now, for example, currently the lots that we've sold at Popus, I have my handwritten form that I check off, which boxes are sold, and we have those records here. Now, Hannah has compiled those. We have a computer database of those lot sales but let's say somebody comes in and they said, oh, my father or my grandfather bought a lot in Old North Cemetery years ago, and I don't know where it is. Kind of like the situation we had with Mr. Folks, George Folks, remember? Fortunately, we
solved that.
Fortunately, we located that from, I think it was on one of the Lewis maps we were going through, and there was his name, so we knew, what lot it was. Of course, that lot wasn't marked or anything like that, but so anyway, that's the goal. We do want to get it digitized so that in the future people can have a central place where they can come to the Cemetery Commission, and they can say, we can tell them what records we have. So, okay. Anything else on digitizing records? Then commission comments, old, new, other business, anything else you want to bring before us?
I have a few things that I want
Yes.
to discuss
Nicole?
with you about the application for the Nantucket Garden Club. I had a few questions. Just hold on, let me pull it up 1 second. I know
Oh, that was about the daffodils?
yes, the daffodils. I know we're at 4 o'clock here, but let me grab it. Really just was if you have any further comments that you want to convey to the grant committee. The application is quite basic, description of the program, which would be the mission. I put in on the application the mission of the Cemetery Commission, how the funds will be used, obviously the daffodil bulbs. Do we think this is going to be a one-time request?
I would suspect it would be a one-time request. I mean, because once we get the daffodils, keep coming back.
And then if there was anything else that you would like to add, there's a comment section on the application that I can add in there.
I don't think of any comment. The whole purpose of the planting the daffodils is to enhance the cemeteries.
To enhance
I think that,
the new entry to the cemetery, actually. I mean,
The what?
because the entrance to the cemetery right now it's inobtrusive, and to plant some daffodils there will make it a little bit more official.
Yeah.
At least when they're blooming.
Alan, this is Lee. I'm an old grant writer. Never miss an opportunity to boost your application. So Hannah, yes, have a sentence about how nice it would be to add beautification to the town cemeteries.
I'm sorry, Lee, you're gonna have to repeat.
Well, this is beautification specifically to that one entrance to that particular cemetery.
To which cemetery are we talking about?
We're talking
Dark
about
color.
planting daffodils at the new hospital entrance to the historic
If
colored
in the
cemetery.
comment section, we can add something about how this will enhance the beauty of the town cemeteries, particularly in the springtime.
Right.
This particular cemetery, we're not asking for cemeteries, we're talking about.
Oh,
the
just
historic
the
colored.
historic.
That's the
culture.
historic
That's
color
actually a
cemetery.
good thing to clarify. The daffodil bulbs are only going to be planted at the new hospital entrance.
Okay,
That's correct, to the new hospital entrance to the historic colored cemetery.
that's great. I agree. Thank you, Fran, for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be good, and we can figure out, particularly if we do get an arbor or something facing Vesper.
Well, there's a lot of daffodils over there already because you moved the ones from the Nash property.
Exactly.
I don't think we need to do more plantings there, but we do need to do something about this new entrance from the hospital area.
Right.
Yeah, and when I talked to Mary Malavase about this, way back when we were going to decided to do this, she understood it very clearly and was really in favor of this application. So I think we're fine.
Good.
I'm gonna go ahead and send that out on Friday.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else to come before the commission this
I
afternoon?
think Hannah said she had more than one thing. Did you have something besides the daffodils?
Nope, just the one thing, just the application.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I think we had another successful online meeting. And again, thanks to Lee for setting this up so we can do this. So, and Rob, good to have you back.
Yes,
And-
good to be back. Thank you. Good to see you.
And to Hannah for helping us record and get all this straightened out. Much appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
I got to run.
Okay, I
Bye-bye,
declare
everybody.
we're at the end of our agenda and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.